governing systems in the body that are constantly communicating with each other. So we're going to draw it as a triangle, and the first system is going to be your immune system. So obviously, when you have an autoimmune condition, your body is attacking itself. Typically, you are going to see that in the skin, in the joint, or in an organ, typically skin or a joint before it attacks an organ. However, most people, once they develop one autoimmune condition, they are more likely to develop more. Now, the other part of the immune system, which is constantly governing your body, everything that your body is coming in contact with, is your gut, okay? 70 to 80% of your immune system lives in the gut. So that's why, as a functional nutritionist, I think gut health is so important. So I'm gonna put that right here. Health, 70 to 80% of immune system. Is that staying in frame? Yes, okay. Number 2 is your nervous system. I always tell people, especially because I work with a lot of high performers, that the symptoms that they are experiencing today did not just happen overnight. They probably the dysfunction started 3 to 5 years ago. So with your nervous system, you have sympathetic and parasympathetic balance. So sympathetic, my physiology teacher used to always start anything with the sympathetic nervous system as a tiger walks into the room, right? How do you feel when a tiger walks into the room? So that is going to be your fight or flight. You are getting ready to run away from the tiger. So that is going to be your tiger, fight, flight. Now, if you are chronically stressed, I see this a lot in nurses or entrepreneurs, right, who are just grinding, then it doesn't matter. Your body doesn't understand if you're running away from a tiger or you're just experiencing that chronic stress. And one of the biggest things that I hear is, yeah, I'm super stressed out, but that's just how I am. And I get that because I'm very similar to that. And I live in a very stimulating city, right? Now, the other side of that, the balance that we need between these two things, is your parasympathetic state. So this is your rest and digest state, right? This can also be the masculine and the feminine. So if you're living too much in your masculine, you're not going to be able to heal. You need to be able to have both of those. And this is also where the cortisol conversation comes into play. I know a lot of people think cortisol is bad. Cortisol is actually anti-inflammatory until it becomes chronic. And we will talk about that feedback loop in a different video. And then finally, over here, third part of your triangle is the endocrine system. So your endocrine system is full of feedback loops, okay? And feedback loops of your hormones. So whenever we're talking about a hormone, insulin, cortisol, leptin, progesterone, testosterone, any of your androgens, right? It doesn't just have to be sex hormones. I want us to think of them as chemical messengers. So this is a triangle. All of these things are constantly communicating. Now, if you have a tilt towards sympathetic dominance, it's going to throw the other two ends of the triangle off. So if you're someone who is saying, I have hormonal chaos going on, but you're living in a super stressed out state, you're working 3 jobs, you're a single mom, and you're not sleeping at night, we have to address this arena. If you are getting your period, but it's really painful and you're not going to the bathroom regularly, you guys wouldn't believe how many times people come to me saying they only go to the bathroom 2 to 3 times a week, which is not okay. That's not normal. Then we have to come back up here and consider your immune system and this gut health, right? We have to consider bacterial dysbiosis, SIBO, bile flow, your probiotic status. Not everyone needs a probiotic, by the way. Leaky gut, all of these different things. Because again, when one side of the triangle is out of range, you're going to tilt the triangle. You're not going to be balanced in this state. So, and whenever we are thinking about programming, whether you are a coach and you are watching this, a nutritionist, a trainer, someone who works with someone with an autoimmune condition or a chronic lifestyle disease, when you are programming for someone, you have to take all of these things into account and how they will affect the other symptoms. For example, if I'm working on someone's gut health, right, and I have to take them through a 5R protocol because they have bacterial overgrowth, there's a chance that they may not feel good during that time. Okay, now if I'm doing a more aggressive gut protocol, but I'm also having them train very hard to failure in the gym, I'm going to drive more stress in the intestines that's going to work against me in my protocol, right? So whenever we are looking at all of this together, and not to mention, to go back to that stress that I'm putting on them, right? That sympathetic stress, driving more inflammation in the gut, I'm also going to make this hormonal cascade. I'm going to tilt the scale on that as well. So we have to think of our macros, our micronutrients. We have to think of our training stimulus. We have to think of toxic load, right? So in today's world, it's not necessarily about if you're toxic or not, at least in the United States. It's how toxic are you? Are you eating a ton of processed foods? Are you eating a lot of seed oils? You know, are you dressing in low quality fabrics? Are you using a lot of chemicals at home? Those things can really matter for certain people. With this, you'll want to take into account genetics and epigenetics. What is the person's environment like? Right? So that can be relationships. That can also be work, because that will directly affect the nervous system. If you're someone who's been in a toxic job, you know that. Water intake, how they're sleeping, how much they're moving or fidgeting during the day, right? Your NEAT activity, walking, steps. I feel like I'm missing something there, but if you're someone who understands it, supplements, peptides. And a good note here, if they are on medications, you'll want to understand that as well. And you'll also want to understand if those medications are leaching nutrients, right? Because we want to give the body the raw materials it needs to carry out any chemical processes in the body. The other thing on that note is we also want to make sure that we are absorbing nutrients, right? That comes into play with gut health, and I'll break that down further in another video. But if you are struggling with this, right, and you're desperately trying to lose weight, but maybe you have an autoimmune condition, I've seen it, I've heard it. People have gone on GLPs and haven't lost a single pound. And there are other things that sometimes need to be addressed before the GLP can work really, really efficiently. And so these are just some considerations to take into account, and I hope they're helpful. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to help.